Hey everybody! Today we're going to be doing some more tactics on chess.com. Instructive tactics. I'm going to be talking through my thoughts. We'll see how many I get right, how many get wrong. Hopefully I get more right than I get wrong. And also another note, I'm recording this the same day that I hung my knight due to a simple counting error. So hopefully I can redeem myself from that. So without further ado, if I can get to the right tab, let's do some puzzles. Alright, so it looks like we've got an attack on black's king here. So first let's look at okay, I see this. So this looks like a checkmate, and or at least we're winning material. And I see, the first thing I did was I looked at all the captures and checks, and there's one move that is both a capture and a check. So that is queen takes g7, but it's also important to be aware of these other captures like d takes c4. There's a hanging bishop right there. We're also black is also attacking our knight, so we have a hanging knight. So we want to be making some type of forcing move, so we're not losing that knight. Excuse me. So yeah, and also the fact that we just have an attack on black's king. This is probably going to be some sort of attack. So I think this move is queen takes g7, and you just have to calculate this out. So queen takes g7. If black doesn't want to lose a bishop for nothing, black has to recapture our queen. And now let's look at all of the checks we have once again. Well, now that this bishop is no longer on this h6 to f8 diagonal, now we can bring our own bishop to h6 and give a check to the black king. So we have that check. There's also this rook to h7 check. It doesn't do anything. It simply gives up a rook. But it's important to be aware of these ideas and which squares you can deflect the king to. So after we take this bishop, we can deflect the king to h7 with our rook. And right now we can't take advantage of that for any reason. But if you think about these things, you will improve your tactical ability and your overall chess. So the line is queen takes g7, king takes g7, and then bishop h6. And then I'm pretty sure this is winning because black only has 3 legal moves. If king goes to g8 or h7, then we play knight f6. That checks the king again. The king has to move to h8, and then we simply play bishop f8 check. Black only has 1 legal move, queen h2, which is a block that does nothing. We simply play rook takes h2, and that's checkmate. So that's if the king moves to g8 or h7. But what if the king moves to h8? I'm pretty sure it's going to be something similar, but let's just calculate this out. Queen takes g7, king takes g7, bishop h6 check, king h8, and then we play. The problem now is if we play knight f6, it's not a check. So bishop h6, king h8. So I'll draw these arrows out if it helps some of you visualize. King h8, and now let's see. So bishop f8, king g8. Now the problem is if you play knight f6, king can capture on f8. The king can capture a bishop on f8. So I see at the very least, instead of move to f8, we can play bishop f4 check. So that the knight is no longer there. And then the king moves to either g7 or g8. I don't think it matters too much. Then we can take this queen and It seems like a fair trade. White has to have something more though, but it's at the very least a fair trade. I don't actually see the exact solution, but from a tactical standpoint, I'm pretty sure this is correct. So I'm gonna go ahead and play it. So yep, that was the first move, and bishop h6. Okay, and now king h8, and now that we have this position on board, we can continue to calculate. So there's bishop f4 check. And there's bishop g7, which is a double check. I don't think it does anything. It could also just be knight f6. No, knight f6, there's queen e7, and it's a fork, so it's not going to be that. So what about bishop g5 check? No. Okay. Bishop f4 check. Bishop f8 check. King g8. Knight f6 check. King takes f8. Rook h8 check. King g7, and there's nothing for white. So bishop f4 check. King g8, bishop takes c7. Sorry, king doesn't go to g8. King would go to g. Actually, this is interesting. I think we just. I don't actually know. I don't actually know. Okay. So bishop g5 check. If king g7, bishop f6 check, and then it doesn't matter if the king goes to f8 or g8. Rook h8 is checkmate. So bishop g5 to check, the king has to go to g8, and then we have knight f6 check. If king g7, then rook h7 check, king f8. Bishop g5 check, king g8, knight f6 check, king g7, rook h7 check, king f8. King f8, rook h8 check, king can just come back to g7, and the best white can do there is repeat. Whew. Oh man. Bishop g5 check, king g8, knight f6 check, king g7, rook h7 check, king f8. Bishop h6 check, king e7. Bishop g5 check, king g8. Wait, we already looked at that. Wait, no, sorry. We looked at king g7. Bishop g5 check, king g8. Knight f6 check. King f8. Oh, wait, no. King g7. I've been looking at this puzzle for a while, and I don't actually know the answer for certain, but I'm gonna guess bishop g5. That's my best guess. So it could be wrong, but that's the best I've got. Okay, it is correct. And king g8. So this was the line I was unsure about. So I guess I'm gonna keep on looking, and if I have anything to say, I'll let you guys know. So knight f6 check. If king g7, rook h7, king f8, rook h8, king back to g7. If only the king were bomb clouded, you could like feel like maybe you could do some fancy rook sec, maybe not. Is it just bishop f6? Yeah, bishop f6, and you're threatening rook h8 checkmate. And how do you stop that? Queen g3. That's the only way I see to stop that. You give up pieces for a little bit, and I don't see how you stop it after bishop f6. All right. All right, we got it after 14 minutes. I'm definitely going to cut that down so you guys won't see the whole 14 minutes, but a lot of the time I was just thinking to myself and not saying anything. So all right, but we got the first one right. Let's go to the next one. Okay, so this looks like some sort of defense tactic, and it looks like if we can defend correctly, we will have a winning endgame with this pawn on b7. So we have 4 options with the king. My first instinct is to move to f4 to defend this pawn. But defense tactics like this are always tricky. Like it could be king h4, queen h6, king g4, queen g6. Yeah. Huh. King f4 is my first instinct. King f4, queen f6. Yeah, the reason why I like king f4 is because king f4, and where can black check? If black checks on the f file, we move to e3, and there are no more checks. Actually, wait. If the queen moves to f8, king e3, queen h. Six. Oh, queen h6 and king d4, queen d2 check, and then king c5. Dude, I don't know how to explain it, but it just, wait, did I say 4 moves? You can't even go to g4. Um, Going to the h file, just h5 just looks bad. So it's got to be f4, I think. Okay, and they do move queen f8. So yeah, the other two checks from this position, queen f7 and just king e3, and there are no more checks for black. And the other check was queen h6, and in that case, king f3, and then followed by king g2 after black's next move, and there would be no more checks. So this is the most critical line in my opinion, because king e3, queen h6, and king f3. Yeah, I think that's it. Because if you get to g2, your queen covers the e2 square, and your king covers the h2 square, and your pawn blocks you from checks on the g file. So what did I say it was? E3, queen h6 check, king f3, queen f8 check, king g2. That's what I said, right? I'm pretty sure that's it. Yeah. So that's how you avoid the checks. And then you trade rooks and queen h8, and you make a new queen, and it's a very simple endgame. All right, so that was the second puzzle. All right, looks like we've got a bit of an attack on black's king. Also, black's king and queen are on the same diagonal. We're down a rook and a pawn. Oh, one rook and one pawn. So this has got to be like we win the queen, or we either we win the queen or we give checkmate. And I can't say that I immediately see the answer. Or we make a draw. It's also a possibility. But, all right. So, so how can we check black's king? There's bishop g7. That doesn't really do anything. But if we can deflect black's queen away from the defense of g7, bishop g7 or queen g7 would be checkmate. So that is something to keep in mind. Black's also threatening this queen to d1, and also right now also e takes f2. So I don't see any checks that work or ways to force a draw. So for that reason, my next intuition is to capture this pawn. But with which piece? Probably with the pawn to keep our bishop on h6, but then comes the problem of queen d1 or also queen a1 check. Queen a1 check, and then you can just do king h2 and queen b2, king h3. There's no bishop f1, your queen guards f1. And what are you threatening? So, tricky tactics today. We've got some tricky tactics. Bishop takes e3. It's also, wait, there's one line that I calculated that I didn't say aloud that I wanted to go over, which was f takes e3, queen d1 check, king h2, queen e2 check, king h3. There's no bishop f1. The queen guards f1, but the queen's also in the way of f1. So there is queen f1 in that line. And that forces the queen trade. And then white is totally losing. Bishop takes e3. What if we just threaten to win the queen like this? Bishop g5. The problem is e takes f2 check, queen takes f2, and queen takes f2, king takes f2, and h5, and the king is out of the mating net, and white is still down a rook. F takes e3. Queen d1. It's got to be bishop takes e3, I think. I'm gonna go for it. It was not correct. So let's take a look at the analysis board. It was, oh my goodness, I totally overlooked this move. Bishop f8, and it's interference with the rook. So you're threatening mate on g8. E cross f2. You just sidestep, and there are no more checks. You cannot defend g8. The only check is promote to a knight, and then king h3, and there are no more checks here. So just rook cross f8 and queen cross f8 checkmate. Wow. That's I missed that. I missed this interference. So let's play it out on the board. King h2, and then king h3, sidesteps, no checks, and that's it. Missed it. Gotta look out for those interference tactics. Alright, let's see how we're doing on time. We're at 26 minutes, but I'm probably going to cut out a lot of that first tactic, maybe a little bit of the second tactic. So we'll probably do one more, and then that will be 4 tactics. Okay, bishop cross c3. And what is there? So the first 2 immediate moves I see are the knight's hanging, and the knight also has 2 safe checks. One of them is also a capture. Knight cross e7. But I want to look at knight h6 first, because it takes away more of the black king square. So knight h6 check. And where are we going from there? Okay, what about this one? Knight takes e7 check. And then king moves anywhere, and then queen takes d6. That looks like a pretty devastating attack. The king's really exposed, the bishop's hanging, and we could take advantage of this diagonal. Now that we've got a bishop and the queen eyeing the d4 square, so I'm pretty sure that it's knight takes e7, just undermining this d6 pawn. But because I don't see anything after knight h6 check, the king moves to g7 or h8, and there's not really anything for white to do. Obviously, I mean, you should consider this, but you can reject it after rook takes h5. There's nothing. So I think this is just knight takes e7 check. Okay, king moves to f7. So I'm pretty sure the next move is going to be queen takes d6. That's what I was planning on playing no matter what, defending the knight, attacking the bishop. And then maybe we can consider sacking our rook here, but not immediately. Black is threatening checkmate on a1. We can force trade the queens, but is it a good idea? We are up the exchange, so that's definitely something. Yeah, I really want to, like, what was I thinking? We might have to force trade the queens with queen d5 here. Because I don't see any decisive blow, and we gotta trade off his queen here. So queen d5, queen takes d5, knight takes d5, and bishop. Where does the bishop go? Bishop a5. We have not there, but a5. We have discoveries on this bishop, but I don't see any good discoveries. And we can also just take this pawn, and we'll be up the exchange. So I think we just have to trade queens here. Oh wait, I missed that move actually. Bishop e6. Bishop e6. So I think we still have to trade queens, especially now. Black's still threatening queen a1, and now black's also threatening the queen. So as long as there isn't any checkmate here or anything, this next move's got to be queen takes a2, and that's it. So a lot of defensive puzzles today. I think, how many puzzles were defensive? There was two defensive and two kind of offensive tactics. This one was kind of both actually. So maybe one defensive, two offensive, and one that was kind of a mix. But it's probably going to be it. And I hope you learned something. If you did, make sure to like this video because it helps me out a lot. And be sure to subscribe for more daily chess videos. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.